I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. The desperate and incredibly weak Donald Trump is ranting and raving about what's taking place in Fulton County, Georgia, after Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, informed Judge Robert McBurney, who presided over the special grand jury, that her decision to charge individuals who engaged in election interference in the 2020 election, specifically in Georgia, those charging decisions are imminent, is what District Attorney Fani Willis informed the court. And she asked Judge McBurney not to release the report prepared by the special grand jury so as to not even potentially prejudice her imminent criminal indictments of individuals who are involved or who were involved in election interference. So this turned Donald Trump into a complete and utter disaster on Tuesday. And Donald Trump took to his social media platform and he started posting these completely bizarre and deranged messages about the phone call that he had where he extorted the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and demanded Raffensperger find him 11,000 plus votes, or else something very bad is going to happen to you, Brad. That extortion, as Brad Raffensperger, by the way, who's a Republican, basically explained what that call was in his own words, is also the subject of Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation, in addition to Fani Willis's criminal investigation, where indictments are imminent. So let me read you some of these statements that were made by the completely and utterly weak and desperate Donald Trump. He writes, page one, so what he posted on a social media platform. On the same day, Fani Willis made this court appearance and told Judge McBurney that charging decisions are imminent. Page one, my phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia, and second call which the Marxists, communists, racists, and rhinos don't even want to talk about were, quote, perfect calls. Many people, including lawyers for both sides, were knowingly on the line. I was protesting a rigged and stolen election, which evidence proves it was. I won Georgia by a lot, but only needed a small number of votes from that total number. They cheated in many ways, including stuffing ballots, all caught live on tape. Every single thing he said there is utterly despicable and utterly false. Your phone call to the Secretary of State was criminal. You extorted the Republican Secretary of State. I know you want to call Brad Raffensperger a Democrat, or you want to call him a Marxist or a communist. You want to call people racist and rhinos. I don't even know what you're even talking about, but you're referring to Republicans who ran Georgia at the time. Republican Secretary of State, Republican governor. Then you go on to say many people, including lawyers for the both sides, were knowingly on the line. Well, usually when people are on a phone call, they are knowingly on a phone call. It doesn't make your conduct any less criminal. Whereas you say you were protesting a rigged and stolen election, there was absolutely nothing rigged and stolen. You've lost all of your federal court challenges. At that time, you've lost literally dozens and dozens of cases. As we also know from the January 6th committee's subpoenas and the finding by federal judge David Carter out of the federal court in the Central District of California, there were emails from your lawyers essentially confessing and admitting that you were signing false declarations under penalty of perjury regarding so-called information about the election that you knew was false, that your lawyers knew were false, which Judge David Carter found that that met the crime fraud exception because your conduct was indeed criminal. A federal judge, by the way, made that finding. And so there was no evidence. All of the evidence was that this was a free and fair election. That's what your attorney general said. That's what your head of the FBI said. That's what all of your lawyers at the White House said. The only people who were telling you all of these ridiculous conspiracy theories were people like the pillow guy, Mike Lindell, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, who came up with the most, to quote your own Attorney General, Bill Barr, batshit crazy conspiracy theories that were all utterly false and rejected by every single federal judge. And when you say all caught live on tape, no, that was another conspiracy theory, a proven conspiracy theory, by the way, that a United States attorney who you appointed, who worked in Georgia, the top lawyer that you appointed in Georgia, looked into this conspiracy theory and said it was utterly false and Rudy Giuliani was intentionally using manipulated video footage. Yet you continue to harass in very racist ways the election workers, trying to cause people and actually causing people to threaten their lives. Utterly despicable. Then you go page 2. With many people on the line on what was a perfect call protesting the rigged Georgia election, which I have a clear right to do, and in fact an obligation to do since I made the call as president, how come not one person said while on the call that I acted inappropriately or made a statement of protest at what I said and then slammed down the phone? Not one, even with so many opposing people, lawyers, and others on the line. No admonishment at all. We nicely agreed to speak again. Again, a complete and utter lie. If you listen to the phone call, Brad Raffensperger responds and basically says, what you're saying is inappropriate, what you're saying is improper, what you're saying can't be done, what you're saying is spreading false conspiracy theories. He was checking you with your statements and saying, no, what you're saying is not true. These are false conspiracy theories that you are spreading, and the call was you ranting and raving and you spreading all of these conspiracies and threatening people. And frankly, it's probably shocking to a lot of people that someone would engage in such transparently illegal and inappropriate conduct. But what, someone's supposed to scream at you on the phone? They're supposed to throw ketchup at your face? That's the way that you're exposed? No. I mean, the people recorded the evidence. You engaged in criminal conduct. You demanded, through your powerful position, you demanded that a state secretary of state find you votes or else very bad things were going to happen to him. That is the threat that you made. That is illegal conduct. And at the same time you were making that, we know from the contemporaneous emails from your lawyer, John Eastman, again, that were exposed in the federal case in the Central District of California based on the January 6th committee subpoena, that you were signing false and phony declarations, which I certainly hope, for one, is in Fani Willis's ultimate indictments. And I hope that you are named as one of the criminals that she is going to be indicting. Then you go page 3. That was the call to Georgia. It was perfect. Nothing done or said wrong. We agreed to continue our conversation at a later date. The other call, that was probably taped by them illegally, was so good that when the Washington Post heard it, they did a retraction and apology because they were fed false information, perhaps by the Secretary of State's office, and they were angry about it. The election in Georgia was rigged and stolen. We have all the evidence needed. That is a crime. You don't have the evidence needed. You lost in every one of the court filings that you made, including in front of judges that you appointed. You lost in front of the Supreme Court. You lost the 70 federal cases that you filed. You lost the state court cases. Not only did you lose, but you lost so badly that a lot of your attorneys are now being disciplined or have their licenses suspended or have received serious sanctions for filing patently frivolous lawsuits. The same way you were sanctioned in the Southern District of Florida close to $1 million for filing a frivolous lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and numerous other people, because all you do is spread false information the same way you are doing right here. And frankly, your conduct right here is false. It is disinformation. It is the utmost, most despicable form of propaganda. And then you're saying the call was perfect. The call was perfect. The call was the opposite of perfect. The call was criminal. You are a 2-bit criminal thug traitor, and you need to be called out for who you are, not perfect phone calls, despicable and disgraceful calls, you traitor. That is, at the end of the day, who you are, what you are, a despicable cancer to the United States of America. And the fact that people in the Republican Party look to you as the leader, that the MAGA Republican Party looks at all of this false, despicable disinformation and goes, yeah, that's someone who we support, couldn't be more despicable, and is such an indictment on who the Republican Party is today. And it's utterly, utterly freaking gross. And you go on to say, oh, the election in Georgia was rigged and stolen. We have all the evidence needed. That is the crime. No, the crime is you trying to overthrow our democracy. That is the crime. The crime is you engaging in a coup in plain sight. That is the crime. That is what Fani Willis is investigating. This is the type of arguments you're going to make in front of a jury. Bring it. Because Fani Willis and a jury who hears all of this ridiculousness is going to convict you the same way the Trump organization was convicted in a courthouse in New York, the same way you are going to be convicted in courthouses across the country as justice is brought to 2023 and you are brought to justice. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. And check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You'll love the exclusive content we have at Patreon, so check it out. And you'll also be able to support our independent media platform. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.